set this as fuel system type fuel pressure sensor, it's now looking at the fuel pressure sensor to judge all of the calculations it needs to make. If the fuel pressure drops, it automatically rescales the injector flow rate to compensate for the drop in pressure and adjust that injector pulse width. So that's kind of the beauty of having fuel pressure compensation installed with a flex sensor. So if you have any deviations in pump flow, as ethanol content grows, it'll take care of that for you, and everything's done mathematically based. So definitely a smart way to go, if at all possible, in integrating a fuel pressure sensor right from the beginning in your tuning. So I'm going to go here. Let's jump into outputs. I'm going to jump into the outputs. I'm going to go here into, let's find our fuel pump down here, fuel pump control, and I'm going to go into the test function and set this to on. That's going to run the pump constant, and I'm going to run all that fuel out. Put the fuel in, jump back in here, and then we'll continue on with the tutorial, and we'll take a look at just running through the engine, making sure it's going to cycle the ethanol that's in the fuel system. It takes a little bit longer on a returnless system to get all that fuel to cycle through and get through the flex sensor to actually register the correct flex amount. We'll get that sorted out, and then we'll start to do some power pulls, make sure the fueling looks good. Then we'll experiment with our spark timing and look at the effect of adding spark timing in versus the knock control, which we know is quiet, is all dialed in on petrol. If we're adding more timing in, and we're seeing a power gain, but we're finding knock happens, and we need to back it out. But we'll find that we typically can run 4 to 6 degrees more timing on a forced induction engine safely on a naturally aspirated 2 to 4 degrees timing usually over petrol fuel safely. Let's see what's going to happen here. I'll be right back after I drain the fuel out into the can, and then we'll continue on here with the tutorial. All right, so I just completed the process of draining all the petrol fuel out of the tank, and then I put in 10 gallons of ethanol fuel into the fuel system. Now, the ethanol fuel that we're running here is coming from our local pump, and it's a winter blend ethanol, so it's going to be anywhere between 50 to 70% ethanol. Now, mixed with the little bit of petrol fuel that's residual in the tank, it is going to bring that content down. Now, what I've done here, in order to make sure that when we're firing up the engine, the ethanol content sensor is going to have some type of registration and reading in it based on the circulation of the fuel coming through the fuel system, I actually fired up the engine before I started to film here and drove the car for about 3-4 minutes to be able to get the fuel to circulate in the tank and pump through the flex fuel sensor, which is mounted on the feed line. If you have a return style system, so you have a regulator and returning back to the tank, and let's say your flex fuel sensor is mounted on your return line or even on the feed line in that situation, you can simply just run the fuel pump, doing the same exact idea as what we talked about here in our output section, going into the outputs. Let's go in here, just how I ran the pump, going in here and clicking on to run the pump. You could circulate and let this run for a couple minutes before you fire up the engine. That'll get your ethanol content sensor reading the actual mixture in the tank. With a return system, we can't do that because we're not turning it back to the tank and we're not circulating it. So I had to actually fire it up and drive it real quick before we actually do the check or test here with the ethanol fuel. Now, let me go in and fire it up and let's take a look.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.